Hey guys, Show Andy here, coming at you with another weird video. As you could probably tell from the title, whatever I decide to name this, it's gonna be another one of those long, rambly videos where I just talk about something that I want to talk about. And it probably won't make any sense for a person who has not watched the thing I'm going to be talking about, which is Madness Combat. And it's gonna be unscripted, and it's gonna be messy and probably boring, but I mentioned in my late night ramble video that the video that inspired me to start doing these quote-unquote weird videos again was that video by PewDiePie where he just talked about a manga he liked for like 15 minutes. And you know what? I admire people who just make whatever they want and are clearly passionate about something. People have told me a lot of times that they really like it when I get passionate about something because I just talk my heart out about it. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that. And I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite animated series, one of my favorite online... Well, what's the best way to describe it? One of my favorite animated series. You can't really call it a cartoon, but if you could, like, if you would place this in the same category as stuff like, SpongeBob, Rick and Morty, maybe just like one of my favorite animated works of all time. One of the most influential Flash animation series ever made, and that's Madness Combat. So if you've been around websites like Newgrounds before, Newgrounds was my childhood when I was a kid. I didn't know that there were porn games on there until way later, but I did play all the violent games, and they kind of messed with me. But if you've been around on Newgrounds and sites like that before, then you'll know what Madness Combat is. I'll just pull up some pictures. Don't mind the fan art. I'm trying to find legitimate frames. This is not a good example. So if any of this looks familiar to you, it's, as I said, it's one of the most influential Flash animation series probably ever made. And, well, the reason I decided to make this video, the inspiration for this video was that I was coming back home from my lesson. I was being driven back home from the lesson by my parents, and I was going to take a nap until I discovered that, until I received the notification that Crinkles, the creator of Madness Combat, uploaded this, sacrifice.fla, which is like another little short, non-canonical animation. And, I watched it. I'm not going to actually play it because I'm going to be playing clips as little as possible so I don't get, copyright struck, and I also don't get accused of, stealing content. But, so I watched it, and it was really good. Obviously, it's Crinkles. He's an amazing animator. And I just kind of got nostalgic, I guess, for the full Madness Combat series, which is 48 minutes total, I think. Does this include the 10th episode? Yes, it does. So the full Madness Combat series is 48 minutes. As you can tell, it's very bloody and violent. It also involves a character named Jesus getting killed multiple times. It's not like something like Family Guy where they throw in Jesus and have him do all these embarrassing, stupid things to religion sucks. It's more, no, there's just a character named Jesus who looks like Jesus from the Bible and has lots of powers. It's not meant to be offensive in any way. Crinkles did make several offensive madness-related videos. One of the most infamous ones was this guy, Tricky, the clown. He was slapping Jesus with his penis or something, and it was really just disgusting. And he's publicly apologized for that, and he's never doing that again. So if you're worried about that kind of stuff from this series, if you haven't watched it and you're considering watching it because of this video, then just don't worry about that. It's just violent. That's really all it is. If 12-year-old me could handle it, then I'm sure you guys can. And I'm not that good with violence. I'm very squeamish when it comes to blood and stuff, but I still love this series. So I was watching the animation. I just started getting nostalgic because this animation series was basically my childhood. This, along with stuff like Calvin and Hobbes and Crazy Monkey Games or something, those things, they encompass my childhood. Those things are what I spent my childhood doing, and watching this series is one of them. And I just want to go over the various reasons why I absolutely love this series to death. And I'll be pulling up various other media, like, WWE, the game Off, Undertale animations and stuff, just to illustrate my points about why I love this series. So, I guess first off, we're just going to talk about the most basic thing, which is that the animation in this series is just, like, unbelievable. Obviously, the first episode of Madness Combat isn't all that special. It's just a guy. Where is it? It's just a guy beating up people. I don't know why he's not like actually playing the. He's like, yeah. So as you can see, this is kind of. I'm not like this is way better than I could ever do, but this is kind of bad. Like there's. The animation is sort of choppy. It's not very fluid. The punches don't really feel like they're having much impact, and the art style is kind of weird. Like I still don't really get why the characters look like this, like the cross in their faces, and the vaguely like phallic shaped bodies. Like I remember I would always draw these characters when I was back in like elementary school, and people would think I was drawing penises because like they think like the feet were the balls and stuff, and this was like the tip or whatever, and it was really gross. But so like this started off as a joke. This started off as just some silly little animation involving some guy killing some other guys because this guy punched him while he was listening to the chicken dance on a beatbox. It's a very stupid animation, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. But what I've found, and I think this applies to a lot of stuff I've created as well, is that the coolest, most like amazing things always start off as jokes. Like they always start off as something serious and dumb that just evolves and evolves, and things just keep getting more and more complex and interesting. Like that crack fic I talked about, the Skeleton Wars, that's like 130 pages right now, and it's like the most meta thing I've ever written. That started off as a stupid joke on the SCP wiki when someone used the phrase skeleton war as like just some random comment, and I was like, hey, I could write about a skeleton war as like a joke, and then some other people joined in the joke, and then it started getting more organized, and it became this massive epic thing. And like that D&D type game that I play, it started off as a joke, and now it's like one of the biggest writing endeavors I've ever attempted. So, and I think Undertale probably started as a joke too. Like, I mean, Toby Fox started off making like that one song, "The Baby Is You." Like that is a freaking weird song. So I don't really know. Like basically, what I'm trying to say is that like if something seems silly at the start, just stick it out. It usually gets better, and like if you have a dumb idea and you're like, oh, I'm not even gonna work on this idea, it's so dumb, give it a shot. Like something as silly as this, like this guy killing Jesus. Like, oh, by the way, Jesus comes down from the heavens to stop this guy. This guy's name is Hank, and he gets killed, and yeah, and then at the end he just dances. So like it's just if this was uploaded today with no context, this would be like probably downvoted to hell. I mean, it's a fine piece of animation, but it's really nothing special. But it's the further installments that really, it's like it's just evolved to such a point that it's just incredible to see how far this series has come. I was supposed to be talking about the animation. Let me just show, like, okay, so compare this to something like this. Let me see, I just skipped to some random spot in the animation. Like, compare it to, I'm gonna try to find, like, a really good fight scene. Let's see. Like, just, okay, first off, notice, okay, I love this. Notice the art style evolution. Look at this fucking shadow guy. Look at the fucking flame effects. Look at how great that looks. The freaking tower rising out of the sky. This is one of my favorite shots in the entire series. Just something about it is so epic to me. And, like, you know, the movements of the characters are lifelike. Well, not lifelike, but they're super realistic and detailed. And, you know, he slices off his eye, and then, like, he stabs him and rips his head off and stuff. And, like, the head splatters when it hits the ground. And, like, it is some of the best animation I've ever seen in a Flash series, and really anything ever, honestly. And so, like, here's something I've noticed about animation, especially for animations that are, like, fight animations, because really Madness Combat is basically one really drawn-out fight animation, with a story and everything, but it's still just a fight animation at its core. So what I've noticed about fight animations, and what separates a mediocre fight animation from a really good one, is impact things need to feel like they have impact, or else they just, to me, they just suck. Like, I don't want to point out any, like, bad examples, because that would be mean. Like, I could pull up a lot of Undertale fight animations that I've watched that I just feel aren't very good, because nothing feels like it has impact. All the punches are weightless. All the character movements don't feel like they have gravity to them. It's just floaty and nothing. There's no feeling of like, oh man, that hit him really hard. But I can pull up some really good versions, some really good examples of impact and all that. So this is, as I said on before on like my streams and stuff, this is one of my favorite fight scenes and animations ever, and I think it's one of the best fan works in Undertale of all time, up there with like Undertale the musical and everything. So let me try to find a good example. Like, let me see. There's a specific scene I'm talking about. Okay, so right here, like just this section right here where Char like rips apart the shield and tackles Metaton, and just starts punching the shit out of him. Like those punches, the screen's shaking. You can see like parts of his eye flying out. Like, you can feel that impact in your bones. Like, I can feel myself, like, tensing up with every punch that is delivered. And, like, let's see. Oh yeah, him getting hit by the Char getting hit by those legs. Like, I don't know exactly what it is, and them hitting the ground, too. It might be it might be, like, the camera work, it might be the sound effects, it might be... There's probably a ton of things that go into it, but, like, this is a fight that feels like it has, like, weight to it. It feels like every punch, every hit is connected. And, like, when they get impaled by the legs, like, that, you can feel how much that would have hurt. Like, this is a great example of what I'm talking about. And, you know, if we're going to go over to WWE, because I'm a big wrestling nerd, let me try to find a good example of this. This is one of my favorite matches in recent memory. Let's see. Yeah, whatever. Like, a lot of wrestling matches suffer, like, let me try to find some other stuff. Like this. That makes me laugh, but, yeah, what I'm trying to say is that there's a very subtle aspect to animations that really elevate them above others. And that's when, the animation just feels like there's, you know, like, it needs to feel lifelike. I'm sure if you looked up, like, Sans fight, just Sans animation fight on YouTube, and you looked up a lot of them, I don't remember any of them specifically, but if you looked up a lot of them, you could see that, like, there's just, it doesn't feel very alive, it doesn't feel very active. I still have yet to find a really good animated Sans fight, which is unfortunate. This one doesn't look that bad. But, yeah. But Madness Combat delivers that in spades, and I think it's part of what makes the action so enjoyable to watch. And this is, if you want a full analysis of what makes fight scenes really good, you could probably watch Super Eye Patch Wolf's video about it. Super Eye Patch Wolf fight. Yeah, this is a really good video, if you're interested in learning more about the subject, but that's one thing that Madness Combat has going for it. Everything just feels like, let me look for another good example, like, him, like the Hank, I'm gonna call him Hank, like, it's like, if you look at a lot of fan Madness animations, like, nothing really feels, it's just floaty and just doesn't feel right. Like, this is, like, everything feels natural, like, the movements and everything, it takes a lot of effort to animate like that, I can tell. So I really appreciate stuff like that. Another thing, since we're on this scene, this is one of my favorite scenes from the series, just Hank getting shot right there. A lot of, like, action movies and stuff, like, let's say Rambo, not the first Rambo, but, like, Rambo's after it, and, like, just a lot of fight animations and animations on YouTube in the vein of Madness Combat, they kind of suffer from, I feel like, the protagonist of those animations. I mean, if you don't watch very many of these types of flashes, then you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But a lot of, like, fan Madness Combat animations, like, they suffer from making the protagonist too strong. Like, if you're watching, if some guy is just tearing through, like, millions of grunts and not sustaining a single hit throughout the entire thing, and like they're just effortlessly dispatching everything. Like, where's the tension? Why should I be worried that like, oh, this character might die right here? No, of course I'm not going to be. He's the main character. Of course he's not going to get hit by these stupid grunts. But like this scene where Hank gets into the elevator to run from the demon or whatever, and he gets, this is a random guy. This guy does not matter. He is not an important character. He is one of the faceless grunts that Hank murders, like thousands of them throughout the series. But he gets hit by them, and that adds to the tension immeasurably, because now you know this guy is not invincible. This guy is like, you can see that he's like flinching in pain and trying to cover up the wound here. Like, I think this is episode 7, Consternation. The episodes have really cool names. But like, this does the best at making, adding lots of tension, because like, you know, a movie like The Expendables, they're not expendable. You know they're not gonna die, because they're so badass, but like, you know, Hank is a badass character, but it's not so badass that there's no tension. There is a lot of tension, I think, in Madness Combat, and that's another thing that elevates it above other, series like it. So, I mean, there's not much else to say about the animation besides just it's really fucking good. Like, Crinkles is just a really good animator. Like, I mean, sure, this doesn't compare to something, in terms of quality, this doesn't really compare to something like, I don't know, Pixar or DreamWorks, or like multi-million dollar studios with like hundreds and thousands of people working on a movie. But like, this is one guy, and like, just the level of detail he adds, and like, you know, see that guy's strap thing on his head broke when he shot at it. Like, that's attention to detail. I like that. It's just that kind of stuff that shows that the animator is like considering things. And that's the most obvious thing out of the way. Of course I'm going to like this because it has good animation, and you know, it's visceral and violent and bloody, and everything feels like it's, you know, it really reverberates with you and all that. So that's the most obvious point out of the way. Now I'm going to talk about one of the reasons why I like the show. One of the reasons why I like the series that isn't as obvious, and I don't think as many people would agree with it. But this series, Madness Combat, it's very similar to how Max Landis describes The Matrix. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I really like Max Landis' way of talking, and I like how entertaining he is, but apparently he's got like sexual allegations filed against him, so that sucks. But anyway, so Max Landis describes The Matrix in this video, I think. The Matrix. Max Landis. Yeah, this video. So Max Landis describes The Matrix as just... No, it was The Terminator, yeah. He describes The Terminator as just this incredibly tight movie. Everything just works. There is no wasted time. There is not a second of wasted time. There is not a second of unneeded exposition. There is not a second of just anything that is out of place. Everything makes sense, and there is no time wasted. You watch the movie, it does not feel like 2 hours. And that's exactly how I feel about Madness Combat. It is an incredibly tight series. Everything just works. And I think it's because of, one, the extremely I'm not going to say captivating, but the extremely convincing and interesting world that they've built in this 48 minutes, as well as the surprisingly intriguing characters for a series that's just about people shooting each other. The characters are very interesting, thanks to a lot of subtle details that Crinkles throws in there, as well as very clever usage of archetypes. And 3, just the overall plot. It's a very simple plot, and it's not any more complicated than it needs to be. It serves its purpose, and it serves its purpose well. It gives all the characters motivations and tells you who to root for and why. And yeah, it's a very interesting plot too, for what it is. So I'm going to run down the points, not necessarily in order. I don't think they'll make sense if they're in order. I might as well go over the plot now. So, obviously plot is an extremely important part of fight scenes. Like, even if a fight scene is like really well animated, like, you know those stick figure fight scenes that were really popular in like the 2000s? Like, no matter how good a stick figure fight scene is, if it's just blue stick man fighting orange stick man, like, cool, I'll be like, oh, that's good animation, but I won't really, like, care. I need some sort of, like, even just is this the right word for it, modicum? Modicum? Yeah, I need even just, like, a little modicum of story to drive the animation. And, you know, like, it can be a stupid story. It can be a story that is, like, really dumb. But as long as it's there, it'll work. Like, a great example of what I'm talking about is another WWE match Alistar Black versus Velveteen Dream. This is heralded as one of the best matches in 2017. And, so basically the story behind it is that this guy... Fucking ads. I really should get ad block, but I think it hurts small YouTubers, so I don't know. But, so this... Basically the story behind this battle is that Alistar... No, this guy, Velveteen Dream, he's very, like... His character is very based off of, like, people like Prince and David Bowie. These very flamboyant, almost effeminate people who are not gay, but they act gay. And, you know, they're just very captivating and fun to watch because of it. Like, they're very showy. They're very, they're like showstoppers, you know? Like, they can control a crowd very well. This is Velveteen Dream, and he was going against Alistar Black, who was basically... He's a Levian Satanist. He doesn't believe, you know, Levian Satanists don't believe that Satan actually exists, but they're very into the occult and magic and stuff. And he's like this tattoo-clad occultist, and he comes out with candles lit, and, you know, smoke billowing and all that. And, you know, he's just a very intimidating, menacing dude. And the reason these two were fighting, the reason these two had what is probably the greatest match, or one of them at least, of 2017... The entire point, the entire reason they were feuding, was that Alistar Black was refusing to say Velveteen Dream's name. In, like, interviews and, like, whenever they met in, like, the locker room, Alistar Black just did not say Velveteen Dream's name. He called him Patrick Clark, I think, which is his real name, and he's like, no. And Velveteen Dream was like, no, call me Velveteen Dream, that's my name now. And he just refused. Alistar Black refused. And that... eventually culminated in this battle, and they kept referencing that in the match. That's what's important. You know, Velveteen Dream was shouting at him throughout the match, like, say it, say my name, and the crowd was chanting, like, say it, and, you know, Velveteen Dream was, like, slapping Alistar Black in the mouth and stuff, trying to get him to say it, and at the very end, he does say it.
Velveteen Dream.
And the crowd goes wild because of it. It's such a simple story. Like, they could have just had this match for no reason. They could have just been like, oh, I don't like you, I'll fight you now. But they decided to throw in a motivation, and even though it's a simple, stupid motivation, it works. And it just makes the fight that much more enjoyable. And, you know, trying to think of other examples. I'm sure they'll come to me, but, like, even a really stupid and flimsy plot is enough to, make a fight scene that much more captivating. And I think... that's reflected in Madness Combat just as much. Because if there was no plot to Madness Combat, if it was just episode after episode of Hank killing people for no reason, it would be really boring. I wouldn't like it very much. And, you know, because maybe that's why I dislike Madness Combat 1 so much. It's just Hank killing people because someone punched him when he was listening to the chicken dance. There's nothing I can get behind. There's nothing I can care about there. But basically, the story of Madness Combat, in a very condensed form, is this guy, Hank J. Wimbledon, very dumb last name in my opinion, not befitting of a badass character, but whatever. Hank J. Wimbledon is this guy, and he's listening to the chicken dance on his boombox in the beginning, and then this guy comes up and punches him for no reason. Oh wait, no. I don't remember if he was the one holding the boombox, or if it was the other guy, but whatever. So he wanted to dance the chicken dance, and he ends up killing 30 people because of it, including Jesus, who comes down from the sky to try to stop him. So then after that, he just dances to the chicken dance. He's like, oh, I got the chicken dance boombox, yay. And that's the end of the first episode. And it would have ended there, except that the fans wanted more. So Crinkles threw in a bit more of a storyline there with Hank, who at this point looks indistinguishable from any other character in the series, decides to go hunting down the sheriff of Nevada, which is where he lives, because the sheriff has put a bounty on his head, basically, for his murder of 30 people. So he goes out to kill the sheriff, and then he also kills this clown named Tricky, which is important later. Then it turns out Jesus is working for the sheriff for some reason, and then he goes and finds the sheriff, and he gets killed by Jesus in the process. And the series would have ended there, because Hank was dead, but, you know, we still wanted more, so Crinkles kept putting stuff out. So, you know, here, the character of Hank has a clear motivation, and, you know, a new character, the sheriff, has been introduced as the antagonist, but it's still not very much. Like, at this stage in Madness Combat, it was still mostly a joke. Like, nothing was really serious, as you can tell from the very silly music playing in the background. it's not a very, like, this is all played for laughs. This is still like a ha-ha, look at this dumb animation. This isn't very serious, and since it's not taking itself very seriously, there's not much to get behind. It's not a very captivating series up until this point. Madness Combat 3 is where things get extremely interesting, extremely fast. So, Hank is alive again, for some reason. He was given a second chance. Basically, Crinkle's acknowledging the fact that we as the audience enjoyed the series so much that, we enjoyed the series so much that he decided to make a third part. So, he's back, he's got bandages on his head to distinguish him as a character, and, it's standard fare. He's going around shooting people, he's trying to kill the sheriff, he's getting his second chance to kill the sheriff, and, it's normal stuff, he's just killing people. Nothing too out of the ordinary until this happens. This is where shit hits the fan, and this is also where Cheshire, one of the greatest musical composers on Newgrounds, and I would even say electronic music history, is introduced. Just listen to the song that plays, like it's playing right now. So, the sheriff hits the improbability drive, which is ripped straight out of, I'm going to look at the animation place, which, by the way, is completely stolen from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but I don't mind, because, still at this point of the series, it was mostly a joke. It was more like a haha, what a silly reference to this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy thing. So, the infinite improbability drive is basically a device that warps reality. It makes improbable events happen. Like the scene in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where the improbability drive is first activated is one of my favorites, because nothing makes sense, the characters are described as falling through mountains of music, and like giant fish fall from the sky, and like the entire universe explodes into 7 fragments that starts dancing with each other. It's just weird shit happens, and the sheriff activates this in a desperate attempt to keep Hank from killing him, and this is where things start getting crazy. This is where the madness combat starts happening. Like, see, Hank just killed the sun, and Tricky is back for some reason, and he gets stabbed. And, weird shit happens, like buildings fall from the sky, like walls fall from the sky, and just Jesus is back and stuff, and then Hank kills Jesus and kills the sheriff. So his character arc is done. He has killed the sheriff. This should have been where Madness ended, but evidently we decided not to. Again, we encouraged Crinkles to keep making more because we love these. So we made number 4. So keep in mind, at this point in the series, the setting has been irrevocably changed. The infinite improbability drive has been activated, and the world has been plunged into madness. Up until this point, this relatively normal world, Jesus exists in the flesh, but beyond that, it's mostly a normal world. Like, Hank never does anything superhuman. Too superhuman? He rips people's heads off and stuff, but still, it's nothing too crazy happens. And that isn't about to change just yet. So, as of yet, the story hasn't really picked up. And, it's still a relatively this is just a fun little thing that you could read, that you can watch in your off time. It doesn't really evolve into that grandiose thing I was talking about until, I think, about 5. So this is episode 4. This is a lot of people's favorites because the music is a fucking banger. Cheshire is like a god. So yeah, Hank is back. He's got bandages. He got revived again, I guess. And he's just shooting people. He's trying to find Tricky for... Oh yeah, by the way, the intro to this animation? They skipped it. Are you joking? Why would you skip the intro? So I guess the actual... Given how much they've trimmed in this movie, quote unquote, I assume that the actual full-length Madness Combats series is like 50 minutes maybe, or 52 minutes or something. But yeah, for some reason, Hank is going after Tricky, that clown that I mentioned before, and Tricky's got a sick new mask now, and he's hosting a rave, apparently. I don't know why Hank is going after Tricky. In terms of story, this is probably the weakest episode, which is fair, because because Crinkles just made it because people asked him to, and, he wanted another project to work on, I think. So, he kills all the people in the club, and then Jesus comes back and he raises a bunch of zombies, and, he kills, Jesus kills him, but he blows himself up, and, Jesus and Hank are dead for good, right? They're totally dead for good, and Tricky puts on the chicken dance and he just dances. And that would have been the end to Madness Combat, but the fans said, we want more, so Crinkles gave us more. And this, episode 5, is where the story picks up, and this is where my points about introducing a story, however silly and weird, infinitely improves a fight scene or any sort of thing with combat in it. So, by the way, Hank looks badass here. This is where he starts getting his like signature gear, because like his entire body was blown up. He probably looks really gross underneath those bandages. So he's just killing people for some reason that's not really explained. But so as you'll notice around here, the world has been plunged irrevocably into madness. Like beforehand, in the earlier episodes, the sky was. Let me try to find a shot of the sky. You know, the sky was gray. It was normal. It was the same as the rest of the art style. But here you can see the sun has been replaced by this like red glowing orb thing. And you know, the sky is pitch black. The music's a lot more unhinged and weird. Jesus looks a lot more aggressive. This is definitely where the series is like hits its turning point. So, you know, this is really cool scene where he shoots everybody while doing like a backflip. So they start sparring, right? And, you know, Jesus and Hank have a really cool rivalry, which I'll talk about when I get to the character section of this video. So Hank is shooting the zombies and the agent and stuff. That was a cool little flip he did. And all of a sudden, Tricky is here, because he never killed him in 4. So Tricky's here. He's using the stop sign that he picked up, so Hank stabbed him with a stop sign in 3, but now he's using it as his own weapon, which is kind of cool. So Tricky's like, oh, he's gonna kill him, but then he just gets shot, because he's still a normal clown. He's still really weak, but that's all gonna change. So, and you'll see what I mean. So Hank shoots some more dudes, and all of a sudden, so Jesus and Hank are about to fight, but then this is where the series really gets disturbing. This is where it picks up from 0 to 100 immediately. This is where things get serious. You know, the infinite improbability drive getting activated in 3 was where the plot started to pick up, but this is where everything just shit hits the fan. This is the equivalent of Omega Flowey just popping up out of nowhere. This Tricky is basically Omega Flowey. He is Flowey. That's how terrifying I think he is. And I'm trying to think of other examples, like something like trying to find other examples that would make sense. Like, let's say that the sheriff hitting the infinite improbability drive, that's like the equivalent of let's say that's the equivalent of the papyrus battle. That's the moment where you know that, like, oh, this game is really cool. But this is where you're like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. So Tricky, who has just been this comic relief character up until this point, suddenly just becomes like a god in human form. Like he's jumped. This is more like Jesus has shown supernatural abilities up to this point. He's revived people as zombies. He's, you know, electrocuted people. He's used bullets. He's used like telekinetic shields. But Tricky is leagues above him at this point. He's like, did you see that jump he did? Just no character's done. He just jumps like 100 feet in the air, like it's nothing. And you know, it's explained later that the reason why Tricky is somehow able to do all this incredibly powerful stuff. Oh yeah, the episode cuts off. I don't know why he cut it off. Oh, he edited it together to make it make more sense. So, you know, he just summoned, these guys drop in, I'll talk about them later, they're important. So these guys drop in to give Hank a katana to help him, and then Tricky summons a fucking building on them and kills them. He rips off Jesus' head, and then, so, they do a little spar, because, you know, Tricky hates Hank, because at this point, Hank has killed Tricky, I think, twice. So that's Tricky's motivation. He's just a fucking killer clown. He's like it. He's like Pennywise. So he kills Tricky, right? And then all of a sudden, he's just back alive, like nothing happened. And then Tricky just fucking rips his head off and beats him to death with it. And the episode just ends. So it's explained later that the reason why Tricky was so ungodly powerful all of a sudden is because, you know, that an infinite improbability drive that Sheriff activated to cause all this madness. Well, Tricky has a portable version implanted in his skull, and that's what's giving him all his power. You know, all the crazy stuff that's happening in the Madness universe, like walls falling from the sky and the sun coming alive, that's like concentrated madness, I'll call it. And it's enough to affect an entire world, so you concentrate that power into a single individual, and you get basically a god in human form. So you see, like, Tricky comes around, and like these guys are Sanford and Deimos. Sanford's the guy with the bandana, and Deimos is the guy without the bandana. So like these were the guys who gave Hank the katana earlier. So Tricky, like, he just jumps like a fucking bouncing ball. It's hilarious. So like this is where things start getting crazy. I think Tricky, as I said, he's basically Flowey. He's just that deranged and scary. So at this point, let's do a quick recap. You have the character of Hank, who clearly likes killing people. and he killed the sheriff, which was his original motivation, so he's not on the run from the law now. But now he has to deal with the fact that from the fallout of what the sheriff did, which is he plunged the entire world into madness. Like, look at that static redness. That is the direct result of the improbability drive. So he has to deal with the fallout from that, and he also has to deal with the fact that this killer clown is on the loose, and it has the power of God. Jesus is Hank's rival, and he's also has to deal with the fact that there's all this madness going on, and that Tricky the clown is on the loose. And Sanford and Deimos, they haven't really been developed yet, but they're Hank's friends, I'll say. And they also have to deal with the fact that there's a killer clown. So, you know, they get their ass kicked, obviously, because Tricky's just that powerful. Also, Tricky summons a fucking train in one of the episodes. Like, he just summons a train. Like, that... He just summons the train out of nowhere, and it almost runs them over. And, let me see... So, okay, so these are sort of interlude episodes where Sanford and Deimos, Sanford's the guy who just got shot, Sanford and Deimos, Hank's friends, they basically go through their own adventures. They just try to survive as the madness increases. And there's not too much story in these episodes, but, you know, the action and the music is good enough that I don't really care. So they get their trademark outfits. Because the interesting thing is, these 0.5 episodes, like this episode is Madness 6.5, and there was Madness 5.5 before. These episodes actually weren't released until after 9, which is when these characters were introduced in their full outfit. Like, we get like a nice little 2-minute or 1 minute, 2 minute thing where just they put on their clothes and their outfits, and they become a lot more recognizable as characters. Okay, so Deimos is the guy with the cap, and Stanford's the guy with the lip. So these guys are really cool. I'll talk about them when I get to the character discussion, but basically they're trying to regroup up with Hank. They're trying to provide Hank with the assistance he needs, because they know that he's kind of getting his ass kicked right now, so they steal the chopper and they go off to find where Hank is. So that's what's going on with them. And so meanwhile, Hank is revived by Tricky, because he's just that powerful at this point. He has the probability drive in his head. And Tricky revives him and basically tells him, like, you know, we're not finished. I have unfinished business with you. You come find me and I will kill you again. Because, you know, Tricky, he's an insane clown. He wants to kill Hank as many times as possible. You give an insane clown that much power, that's what he's going to do. So, you know, Hank goes in and he kills a lot of people. He looks really creepy in this part with, like, his jaw hanging open. So yeah, this is the part where Tricky literally summons a train. And it's just... Oh yeah, right here, Hank was about to... This is the improbability drive from the third episode. If Hank had been able to destroy this here, he could have ended all the madness. He could have, you know, brought peace to Nevada and probably, like, died, like, a peaceful death or whatever. He could have ended the series right here, but of course Tricky decided no, and he summons this train and just runs him over, basically. The music here is incredible, too. As I said, Cheshire is an amazing composer. So, Tricky's piloting the train, and Hank's trying to get to him, because, you know, his motivation at this point is, fuck you, Tricky, you murdered me, I need to kill you. You know, it's simple motivation, but the storyline at this point is so weird and so odd that I couldn't help but get, you know, captivated by it. Like, how are they going to stop this living god Tricky? Why is all this madness related stuff happening? Can they destroy the improbability drive in time? And another thing that I like about this is, I've noticed I like this about a lot of things, there's no dialogue in this entire series. There's like little bits of narration, like text on screen like you saw earlier, but there is no spoken dialogue. And, you know, I was a big fan of the early LEGO games, like LEGO Star Wars, The Complete Saga, LEGO Indiana Jones 1 and 2, where they just had no dialogue, there was just voice grunting. And I think adding dialogue to something like this, it just takes away from the experience. Like, you want it to be as ambiguous as possible, you know? I don't want Hank to have, like, a canon voice. I don't want Tricky to have a canon voice. I don't want there to be bogged down exposition. Oh, this is what the infinite probability drive does. This is how it works. This is what madness is, and this is how you reverse it. This is how the portable improbability... No, I don't need any of that. Just give me this, and let me speculate on my own. I appreciate that a lot. You know, stuff like Bloodborne, there's dialogue in it, but it lets you form your own conclusions. It doesn't hand-feed you everything. And I really appreciate that. That's Jesus, by the way. So they fall and stuff. Hank looks fucking terrifying here, just how battered he is. You know, Hank started out as this violent psychopath who just killed someone because they didn't give him a boombox, and he punts down the sheriff. But at this point in the series, without any dialogue or any sort of notable character development, they've made Hank into a sympathetic character. Because you can't help but sympathize with this guy. He's being tortured by this insane clown and brought back to life. He got killed right here. Tricky killed him. He stabbed the thing through his neck and he died. But Tricky Wood isn't going to let him die. He revives him again because he just wants him to torment him and he wants to kill him as many times as possible. So you can't help but sympathize with Hank now. You can't help but root for him. Like, kill this stupid clown. Tricky is one of the most is one of the characters that I hate the most in any sort of medium, just because of how diabolical and fucked up he is. And you know, I'm rooting for Hank to kill this guy. And you know, he's completely lost at this point. Like, do you see how aggressive his fighting style is compared to the first few episodes? Like, he's decapitating people with an axe. Yeah, he goes. I'm trying to show as little of the series as possible. Like, I'm fast forwarding to save time, and also so I don't like get accused of like stealing the content. So you know, Hank here, Tricky was buying a hot dog, and Hank kills him. So finally, Hank kills him, and you're like, yes, now the series can end on a high note. But of course not. The improbability drive in his head starts going into overdrive, and he gets reincarnated as this flaming demon thing, which is probably the most powerful thing in the series. So this, you can tell just from the animation and the storyline that's happening right now that the series has definitely picked up in scale, in grandeur, the storyline is picked up so much in just 6 parts from the very first part, from part 1 where they were just dancing to Chicken Dance and then Hank killed a couple people. Now it's this just giant, almost like, what's the word, like mythological tale of a world encompassed and engulfed by madness, and this lone quote-unquote hero, he's not even a hero, but this lone figure is here to try to stop the source of the madness, this insane clown who has been tormenting him and won't let him die, and meanwhile his friends are trying to get to him, and Jesus himself, the savior of humanity, has given up, and he's just raking leaves. Like, I just love that. It's a weird, dumb, stupid story, but it adds so much to the animation. So Hank gets his ass kicked. You know, half his body is cut off. Tricky is just swatting him around like a doll, like a rag doll. It's just like, you know, blah, 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 blah. And again, you can't help but sympathize with him. Hank, who has spoken no dialogue and has shown no remorse in killing people, you feel sorry for him just because of the circumstances he's in. I think it's really good storytelling. And you know, this is Hank's most badass and iconic outfit. I just love this. So Hank gets revived once again by Tricky, and you know, he's trying to get him, and he actually, right here, he shoots him in the head, and he actually manages to hit the portable improbability drive, so he actually damages it. So Tricky is in danger. His godly powers are in danger, so you know, he retreats. Well, no, he doesn't retreat. He knocks him around a bit, then he retreats. So he goes off and he fights this giant guy, Mag Agent Torture. This is one of the coolest designs in the series. It's a very edgy series, in case you couldn't tell, you know, the sky is blood red and there's so much violence and all that. But I never feel like it tries too hard. You know, a lot of fan-made Madness Combat animations, they try too hard. You know, they just ripped his heart out there. That might have been trying too hard. But a lot of Madness Combat animations, like this one in particular, like, I like this a lot. It's one of my favorite fan-made animations, but it tries really hard. Like, it's so edgy. Like, there's full voice acting, and it's extremely anime, and there's all these original characters. Like, I never feel like Madness Combat is trying too hard. It's just, everything feels like it fits in the world that they've created. And I'm gonna go in more depth about how I feel about the world later. But, yeah, basically, everything just feels like, it doesn't feel too edgy. It just feels like, yeah, this is how the world works. Fucked up stuff like this happens. I guess you could call it, compared to, like, Berserk, where it's extremely, like, gruesome and violent in Berserk, but it doesn't feel like it's trying too hard. At least that's what I've heard from people who read it. So, you know, Hank goes around, he kills that guy with a chainsaw, and, you know, Tricky is extremely small now. He's human-sized because his portable improbability drive has been damaged. But, you know, he's still unstoppable. He's still unkillable. And Hank is about to lose when all of a sudden Jesus shows up. He came out of retirement, I guess. So he comes down, he kills these guys, and he stabs Hank in a maneuver very similar to one of Hank's most famous moves in Madness Combat is this right here. Let me see. one of his most famous like sequences, I guess, is when he stabs this guy. Well, I don't know. Yeah, this guy. No, not this guy. But one of the most iconic scenes in the entire series is when he stabs this guy, lifts him in the air, and shoots him in the head. That's one of the most badass things that Hank has done, just because of like the slickness of the maneuver. Jesus kills him in a direct callback to that exact same maneuver. And so he jumps from down and stabs him and shoots him with his revolver and his sword. And he shoots him. And the way he shoots him, I think this is going into the whole character development and storytelling thing. Like, it's very hard to tell a story without, it's very hard to develop a character and tell a story without very much dialogue, and especially in a world as chaotic and weird as this. But they managed to give Jesus and Hank, they managed to give their rivalry a very, very definitive ending and a very interesting tone, because the way he almost gently lifts him in the air and says "Good night, Hank" as he shoots him, it feels like a mercy kill. Like, if you look at how Jesus kills Tricky here, like, he just messily like shoves his sword in his face. He could have done that to Hank, no, but he gave him a very dignified, honorable death. And I think it's because out of all the times they fought in the previous matches, in the previous episodes, you know, they kind of built up a respect to them between each other, like they're rivals, you know, like a Pokemon rival. That's a cool little dynamic of their relationship. So Jesus comes down, he kills Hank out of mercy, and he shoots the improbability drive, so Tricky has no power now, he's just a stupid clown. So finally, Tricky is killed. And, you know, you think that'd be the end, you know, the godly being that was tormenting our main protagonist is dead. The main protagonist is dead. He's finally reached peace after being tormented for so long. And, you know, the thing is, though, you know, those two characters are dead. Those extremely important characters are dead. But the madness has not been, like, purged from Nevada. Like, you know, the sky is still red and everything is still messed up. We need to go back to normality. So we find out who the puppeteer, the whole, what is it called? We find out who the man behind the man, I suppose, is. We find out who was controlling everything behind the scenes from maybe the beginning. I don't know how long this character's been around. I don't know when this character was created, but we find out that there's this character. So you can see on this terminal that he's looking at, like, he's been observing everything that's been happening in the series up until this point. Like, he's seeing how the clown Tricky was revived, and he gave him a remote improbability drive. Mag Agent Torture was killed, Hank was killed, the clown was killed. So he bumps up the training level of the grunts, those random people that Hank kills in the episodes, to oh shit level, and we see this character. The Auditor, this pitch black shadow with red eyes. Very edgy, I like it. But, so we see this mysterious character, and the next episode focuses around Jesus. He gets a really cool monologue here. I really like this, what he says here. I'll just let him play out. I'm not going to try giving it voice acting, because that's really dumb. But yeah, basically Jesus' motivation at this point is he wants to end the madness. He wants to find the Auditor. Did I say that's his name? The shadow guy is named the Auditor. So he wants to find the Auditor, kill him, destroy the main improbability drive, and restore normalcy to Nevada. So he goes around and kills a bunch of agents. And this is one of my favorite episodes too, just because Jesus is a very interesting character to watch fight. He has lots of extremely, like, he has telekinesis, and, you know, he can disintegrate people with his eyes, but he's still a fun character to watch. There's still tension in when he fights, because you can see right here, the Auditor, like, infected him with something. So he's not as strong, and, you know, there still is tension. He still gets his ass kicked, or at least injured a lot. So he's going around killing grunts and trying to get to the Auditor. You know, this big boy shows up. So he deflects the thing. This is really cool, by the way. So he deflects the bullet and kills him. And so the Auditor gets this cool, like, flames around his head, and he has to. Jesus, like, dodges a bunch of minigun shots. And he runs towards here, and you can see the halo on Jesus' head is sort of like, it's no longer a perfect circle. That's important to keep that in mind. So it's starting to break apart, and I'll explain why later. So he's going around killing the guy. He shoots the guy with the sniper rifle, and the Auditor comes in, and you realize how powerful the Auditor is, because you saw here, well, you saw there, Jesus shot him, but he just teleported. So it's never confirmed in canon, but it's my headcanon that the Auditor is, like, basically, he is living madness. He is madness incarnate. All the chaos and messed up stuff that's happened ever since the improbability drive was activated, he is that given like physical form, and that's why he's so focused on preserving the madness at all costs, because if it goes away, he goes away. So he's able to like disappear, and he's able to manifest guns out of midair and stuff. He's basically unkillable at this point. Like, you know, Tricky was a living god, but this guy's more of like a living shadow. He can just avoid everything and just kill you. Yeah. So we're reaching the end game at this point. If you see, we're pretty far in the video. This is Madness Combat 9. There's only 10 episodes so far. 11 is going to be the final episode, and it's been in production for 6 years, so that should say something. So, recap, this whole thing started off as a guy dancing to a chicken dance and then killing some people, and now it's become the quest of these various characters to save the world from madness and stop madness incarnate, I think. Basically. So, you know, Sanford and Deimos, those guys from earlier, they're driving around and they're trying to find Hank's corpse and revive him because they need his help to take down the auditor. So, you know, they're really cool. I'll talk about these characters later. But yeah, so we cut back to Jesus, who gets blown up. And in the process, the auditor accidentally destroys the improbability drive. He doesn't destroy it, he damages it. Normality, restoration, and process. I love that line, it's so cool. So you see that the sky breaks apart, and this bolt of lightning just destroys the entire building. And in the process, it kills, that was a cool edit, by the way. Yeah, it's not supposed to play out like this. Like, the episode's supposed to end after that bolt of lightning shows up, but this guy edited it together, so it looks like it was part of the same episode. So, that bolt of lightning destroys the entire building. And this is what it meant by normality, restoration, and process. Now that the main improbability drive has been destroyed, Nevada is starting to be cleansed of the madness. The sky, the red sky that is a symbol of that madness, is breaking apart, and these bolts of purifying normality energy, I'll just call it, are coming down and just cleansing whatever they touch. You know, that building was not normal. It was made of madness, but it was destroyed. So Jesus has succeeded in his goal. He's dead now. The blast killed him because he also was not very normal. He was, you know, he was Jesus with like telekinetic powers and stuff that's not normal. So he gets killed by the blast, but in the process he sets up the normality restoration process. So we're reaching the end game here. What was it? So this whole madness combat thing is about to come to an end, basically. But as long as the auditor is alive, as long as this living incarnation of madness is alive, it's also theorized that this guy has a portable improbability drive in his body too. So as long as he is alive, Nevada can't truly be cleansed. So he sneaks around and he steals the halo from Jesus, and it's revealed in a spin-off game that the halo is the source of Jesus' power, and it's like made of concentrated normality energy. So the auditor has just corrupted that and made it red, if you just saw there. So he's taken this like keystone of normality and he's corrupted it into madness. So he's just become a lot stronger, if you can believe that, because he was unstoppable before. So Sanford and Deimos, they retrieve Hank's corpse and they go around. And for some reason, Auditor revives, like, gives this guy life or something. It's kind of weak. It doesn't really matter. So he also possesses these two agents. You know, they have really creepy orange eyes now. So he possesses them and sends them off to go kill Sanford and Deimos. And they're a lot stronger than normal grunts because of it. So Hank throws, Deimos throws Hank's body into this revival chamber, and then he gets shot and killed before he is able to finish the process. But luckily, even though he was killed, also Deimos' death is really sad. I'm still not over it. But you see there that Hank was able to lift up the thing anyways, because he did get revived, it's just the process wasn't perfect. So, you see that Hank has come back as this weird monster abomination with like a lobster claw. So he goes around and he kills this guy, no problem. It's kind of cool how he does it too. He like does a slow-mo thing. Yeah, that's really cool. So he kills that guy, and, you know, Sanford is really mad that his best friend Deimos is dead, so they decide to fight the Auditor, and the Auditor reveals he can soak up people and become stronger, so, you know, he's a lot bigger than he was before. So, the music in this part is incredible, holy shit, this is probably my favorite track out of all the Madness tracks. So, you know, this is the climactic showdown. You know, there's bolts of normality restoration energy in the background, you know. Nevada is being purified and cleansed. It's kind of like Off. It reminds me of Off a lot. It's being cleansed of this madness, but this last remnant of the madness needs to be killed before everything can go back to normal. So Hank and Sanford are being the heroes and trying to stop him. So, you know, they fight him and they're hopelessly outmatched. Obviously, his face gets burned. He can use fire and he can, like, transform into, like, he can just teleport. And he can... The Auditor is overpowered as fuck. But I don't think it violates the whole thing of, like, there's no tension, because you'll see why in a minute. You know, it's supposed to make you feel hopeless, this part. Like, oh, how the hell are they going to kill this guy? And I'm not going to claim, like, oh, I'm so emotionally invested in this. Like, this, I'm not going to claim that Madness Combat made me cry or something. But it got me to care about the character. It got me to feel sad when Deimos died. It got me to feel worried when this guy's in danger. You know, it's fair. And for a series that has no dialogue and has very little notable character development, it's very impressive. So Hank manages to steal the halo for a bit, but it, like, zaps him with normality energy, because it, like, it's sort of, like, attached itself to the Auditor as a host. But it zaps him with this normality energy. If you look down here, Hank is getting zapped and zapped and zapped, and he grows a fist out of it, because a fist is more normal than a lobster claw, right? So he gets a fist, a giant fist. And now that he's been zapped by the halo, he's able to do this. So let me see. Maybe that's later. Yeah, but okay, so since the halo, which is this normality thing, this concentrated normality and madness, if you couldn't tell from up to this point, are basically light and dark. They're opposites. They're anathema to each other. They cannot exist in tandem. So the Auditor has corrupted this cornerstone, this keystone of normality, and made it into madness. But Hank touching it has basically reminded it's basically reminded the halo that, like, of what it was before. So it resists him, that bolt of lightning, because normality is represented by bolts of lightning for some reason. So Hank, like, the halo, like, drags its spear away from him, and you know, the Auditor decides it's time to retreat. So he does that cool thing that I mentioned before. He escapes, and then you'll see right here, where is it? Yeah, right here. He starts getting zapped, and it says rejection. So the halo was fighting back against his control because Hank stole it. It's starting to, like, realize that Hank was a better host. So it's starting to reject him now, and the Auditor realizes he's in trouble. Because, you know, now the halo is fighting back, and he might actually die. So he retreats, and he starts suking up some more dudes. Where is that? Yeah. So Keystone Fragment Compatibility has been compromised. That means the halo is rejecting him. It's no longer accepting him as its host. So he needs to start absorbing people to sustain himself. He needs to start absorbing these madness-induced people to avoid dying. So he needs more. So this is the big climactic showdown. They reach the top of this tower, and Hank just shreds this guy. And the Auditor comes down, even bigger than he was before. But here's the thing. Now that Hank has been chosen by the halo, he can start wielding that normality power. He starts hitting and punching the Auditor in the face. And Auditor is taking damage for the first time in the entire series. He was usually able to just teleport away. But that normality is his kryptonite. It is hitting him. It's the only thing that can hurt him. So he's like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. So he soups up some more dudes. He soups them up, and he becomes incredibly tall and big. And he starts, like, you know, trying to get him. But Hank is just a badass and just punches him. And he's like, oh shit. So he absorbs this guy. And he's extremely big now. And he gets, like, this big old sword, but, you know, Hank is still a badass and it's not going to do anything. So Hank fights off the madness sword with his normality hand or whatever. And so the Auditor starts absorbing even more people, and he's just becoming this Goliath. And you're like, how the hell are they going to beat this guy? But then he makes his one mistake. He absorbs Tricky. Tricky's corpse is absorbed, and bam. For reasons unexplained up to this point, Tricky's body is able to fight him off from inside, and the Auditor explodes in a puff of smoke that looks way too much like Tricky's hair. So that is the end of the series as far as we know it. That is, MC11 has been in the works for 10 years. I mean, not 10 years, 6 years. So whatever the conclusion is, I can't really say anything definitive about the story up to this point. But yeah, that I spent way longer than I thought I would describing the story. But basically, the story of Madness Combat is a very, you know, archetypical story of light versus dark. It's a very, when you break it down into its elements, it's a very normal, typical, expected story of, like, oh, there's a corrupting force and you try to stop it using the good force. But the spin it takes on it with all the characters like Tricky and the Auditor and Jeebus, they call him Jeebus sometimes. Just the way they tell the story and like the characters that they introduce, I just think it adds so much to the animation. It just makes me care about who's fighting and why a lot more. And I think it's a big part of why I love Madness Combat so much. The story is just so interesting. And real quick, I'm going to talk about, segueing off of that point, I already talked about how the world of Madness Combat has been like infected with madness and nothing makes sense, right? I think that was a really interesting storytelling decision by Crinkles, because it basically means he can get away with anything now. He can do whatever weird, fucked up shit he wants in this series. Like, he could make this giant demon clown thing. He can make, where is it? He can make this giant demon clown thing. He can make this mag agent, which has spikes through its head and like wields a giant shotgun. He can make buildings fall from the sky. He can make this shadow character. He can make anything he wants, basically. And it'll fit in this universe. It reminds me a lot of the game Off, because, the game Off, the world it develops is so weird and surreal, but it feels unified. Nothing feels out of place. Nothing feels too weird to the point that it's just dumb. Like, a big problem I have, just as a person, is that I always ask questions that don't need to be asked. Like, I was playing Kingdom Hearts 2 at my friend's house, and I was asking, like, why are there Heartless in space? Did Heartless evolve to be in space? Like, I ask questions that don't need to be asked, that just want that sort of closure and that definitive answer. I'm not good with ambiguity a lot of times. Like, I read that 130-page document about the Bloodborne lore that answers almost every unanswered question. I need that certainty. But with stuff like Off, I don't have to ask. I don't have to ask questions. I don't have to ask, why do the Elsons breathe smoke? Because that's just part of the universe. They establish that the universe is weird and it doesn't follow our rules. So I accept that. Elsons breathe smoke. They drink meat and they swim in meat and oceans are made of meat. I don't question that, because it's just, that's the world. Yeah, good job. You did the world building is so solid that I don't even question anything. And that's another thing that they do in Madness really well, I think. The world just feels like it just has, every Madness Combat animation just has this feeling, just this mood, this atmosphere of madness. Like, you can tell if an animation was inspired by madness. You can tell, like, it just has this vibe going. Undertale has its own unique charm and everything. This has its own unique charm too. It just has this distinctness that I just love. And talking about the characters real quick, Hank. So the main characters in this series are Hank, the protagonist, who dresses up in the black outfit. This guy. You have Hank, you have Tricky the clown, you have Jesus, where is he? Yeah, you have Jesus, and you have Sanford and Deimos, and you have the auditor. So those are the important characters to keep in mind. And again, as I said, there's barely any dialogue in this series, but the nuances to the characters that Crinkles adds is very interesting, because I already talked about how Hank is a very interesting character, because he is a bad person. He is a psychopath. He murders people and clearly enjoys doing it. But he's still a very sympathetic character because of all the shit he goes through. But by the time he gets to episode 10, Crinkles has stated that the revival process, when Deimos chucked him into that thing and died, he revealed that Crinkles confirmed that the process, because it was messed up, has left Hank mentally retarded. So this normal guy who just killed some guy who probably had anger issues or something, who killed a guy over a boombox, is now in this madness-riddled world, fighting for his life, in a mentally retarded state, in this gruesome, messed up body, with, his friends dead and everything. So I think Hank is a really interesting character. It's my personal headcanon that in Madness Combat 11, when or if it does eventually get released, once normality is restored to Nevada, if it is, Hank's just going to shoot himself. Like, he's lived a life of suffering up until this point. He's been tormented. He's gone through shit that no one should ever have to go through. And I feel like that's just how his character arc is going to wrap up. He's just going to give himself a final death and be done with it all. So Hank is a very interesting character in that regard. And Jesus, I already talked about his relationship with Jesus. Like, they have a very sort of very respectful rivalry going on. like the very dignified, honorable death that Jesus gives Hank here, shows that the two respect each other because of like the long history they had. And I think every single episode leading up to episode 7, excluding 6, because Jesus wasn't really in 6, every single episode leading up to episode 7 had a fight between Hank and Jesus, so it makes sense that they would have this bond with each other. So another interesting thing about Jesus is that he worked for the sheriff. He watched the sheriff push that normality restoration button. But, let's see. But in episode 6.5, or maybe it was 5.5, it was one of the episodes. I get a bit confused about the chronology of this series. It is a bit convoluted. Yeah, right here. So Jesus, he gets his halo back after Tricky tried to steal it. And, Tricky ripped off his head, but he came back to life. So Tricky posts I quit, and that clearly shows that he was working for the auditor at some point, but he is no longer working for it. He's gotten sick of this madness. He wants it to end. So, in episode 6, where's episode 6? In episode 6, you can see Jesus, just raking leaves, like he's just trying to live a normal life and trying to avoid all this madness and killing. He's basically retired. And yeah, right here. So Jesus is just raking leaves. Okay. But then in episode 7, it's clear that after Tricky came back as this monstrous demon clown thing, he's like, okay, I can't sit back and watch anymore. I'm going to get myself involved. I'm going to kill this clown, which he does with complete ease. It's so badass. So he kills Tricky with complete ease, and he sets his sights on the auditor. So it's a very interesting, redemption quest, basically. So Jesus was very clearly the bad guy in the very first episodes, because he just watches the sheriff plunge the entire world into madness. But here he's trying to atone for his sins. It's very, it's kind of funny that Jesus himself is trying to atone for his sins, but you can tell that he's on this sort of righteous quest to right his wrongs and stuff. And you root for him too, even though he was a bad guy in the beginning. He's sort of redeemed himself. He's nominally a good guy. He's like an anti-hero. And I just think it's really cool that characters can go through their own development arcs and character arcs in a series where there's no dialogue and there's no real, in a series where everything is just fighting. I think it's really cool that characters have their own development arcs and everything. So there's Jesus, and then Tricky. There's not too many subtleties or nuances with Tricky. He's just a fucking insane clown. But for what he is, he's extremely effective. He is an extremely effective antagonist. He gets you to hate him so easily just because of how fucked up and evil he is. Just demented. He is so demented. Again, I said he reminds me of Mega Flower in that regard. Was he just doing the... Okay, anyway. So you'll see right here, one of the best examples of Tricky being just crazy is he takes the ripped off head of Jesus, which he did in episode 5, and he tries to wear it as a hat, because he thinks that's the source of the power. He doesn't think to himself that maybe the halo is the source of Jesus' power. No, he thinks that his severed head is the source of his power. He's stupid, but he just has this ungodly power. He is this stupid-ass clown who Hank has killed 3 times, who just keeps getting second chances because of the madness and the improbability drive. And that probably pisses Hank off. And that, it's just a really cool idea, I think. This nameless, unimportant grunt clown shithead was given the power of a god. And he does not deserve this power, but he goes to fucking town with it. He just becomes, the god of the madness world for 3 episodes, before he's unceremoniously killed by Jesus. When that improbability drive is destroyed by Jesus, it just goes to show how weak and pathetic of a character Tricky is. He was this demon thing, but then the moment it gets shot, he is helpless as Jesus kills him. I think that's a really cool character idea. This incredibly weak character who gets incredibly godly power kind of reminds me of Porky in a way from Earthbound. I do know that much about Porky/Pokey. He gets... spoilers. I mean, it's not really a spoiler at this point, but, Gygas grants him all that power and everything. It's very interesting, I think. Then you have the Auditor. The Auditor is not that developed of a character. Hold on, just a second. Yeah, it's been happening a lot recently. My parents keep interrupting my videos. Auditor isn't that complex of a character, I don't think. But there is a bit of, like, humor to his character, because, for the most part, he's just this menacing, sort of edgy, big bad guy made out of shadows and madness, but, like, in this episode... Oh, I guess Madness 7.5 hadn't been released at the time. No, this was released in 2017. Where's Madness 7.5? Ah, shoot, where the hell is it? I have no idea. But yeah, Madness 7.5. There's a really funny scene in Madness 7.5 where, like, these, like, specialized agents right here, these yellow monocled guys, like, these are, like, the highest ranks of agents or whatever. So they're chatting. I just find it funny that these guys are directly chatting with the auditor. That's like, I'm trying to think of, like, if you saw in a series, like, some random henchman were, like, chatting in a chat client with, like, fucking, some, like, James Bond villain or, like, some sort of incredibly evil character, like, and the fact that his name is Big Bad Odd 999, that's hilarious. And, like, he types out this long message about, like, you won't stand a chance unless you've been upgraded. Hello? Like, that little, like, scene just makes me, it adds a lot of humor to the character. It just paints him as this, he's this ultimate powerful living shadow you cannot kill no matter what. But he's really bad at chatting with people, and, like, he's very awkward. Well, not awkward, but, like, he doesn't really know what he's doing on a computer. There's also this scene in Madness Combat 9 where, like, he just walks in to one of the buildings after he possesses these guys, and he sees his guards, like, playing poker or something. He flips the table, destroys it, and he just kills this guy for no fucking reason. He just kills this guy and keeps walking. Like, he doesn't even make a big thing out of it. I just find it hilarious. Like, it just shows how edgy and, like, evil of a character he is. Like, he's not the same kind of evil as Tricky. Like, Tricky is insane. Tricky is demented. Tricky is unhinged. Auditor is more, like, cool, calm, collected, just like, I'm going to kill you and there's nothing you can do about it evil, but it's contrasted with that whole, like, really, like, silly thing, that silly chat log in 7.5. I think it does a good job of making Auditor, like, a really cool character. And then you have Sanford and Deimos, who I think are probably my favorite characters, just in terms of personality, in Madness. Like, these two are, they show up, like, they're not very important characters when they're introduced. They just kind of show up for no reason. It wasn't explained in the series why these guys gave him a katana, but then they just get crushed and you think they're dead for good. But it's revealed later on in the series, like several years later, that these guys are actually important. So these guys are clearly friends. There's tons of little subtleties of, like, all the things they do for each other and, like, the funny, like, interactions they have. Like, so let's see, I'm trying to find good examples. Sanford drinks some beer here and then throws the cup at some guy, and that's really funny. So I'll just explain the dynamics here. So Sanford is, like, a more serious, like, almost like James Bondish character who's, like, very slick, and he like, he's no nonsense and he just gets the job done. Meanwhile, Deimos is more like, he's very laid back, he makes jokes a lot, and, they just have a nice little interplay here. And you'll see right here, like, Deimos is like that flippy shit move. It's like I also really like how, it's hard to notice, but the characters in this series have very distinct fighting styles, like, and that evolve throughout the series. Like, I'm trying to think of examples. Auditor, like, slithers around like a snake, and he's just very sneaky. Hank, like, he's brutally efficient, and sometimes he indulges in, like, needless violence. And Jesus relies on his powers a lot. Sanford, he uses this, like, hook that shows up later, and, like, Deimos is, like, really showy. He's doing the freaking, like, rock on sign. I think that's really funny. It shows off his personality really well. So there's more stuff later on. So you can, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, there's a lot of subtle details that Crinkle's in that really help the characters shine and really help the characters, like, define themselves, and I think that's really important to why I like the series so much. Oh yeah, Deimos smokes, which is not good because, smokers always die in the Madness Comic universe. So, like, okay, so this is another example of their, one of their funny interactions. So, Sanford takes on this entire group of guys with, like, dual-wielding swords like a total badass, and Deimos just hangs back and smokes a cigarette. And then after all this happens, after Sanford's taking care of the guy, Sanford points at him, he's like, what the hell were you doing? And Sanford, like, Deimos, like, quickly flicks the cigarette away. Crinkles did not need to animate that. That was not necessary for the fight scene, but he just added it because it makes the characters funnier and it makes the characters more likable. So then they almost get run over by a train here, and while they're distracted, Sanford gets shot in the stomach, and Deimos immediately, no nonsense, he does not fool around after he sees Sanford get shot. Just closes in the guy, punches him, takes his gun, shoots him, and immediately goes over to help Sanford up, who is clearly, like, dying. Very gingerly helps him up, I think. And he, like, looks back to you like, oh, are you okay, dude? And, you know, he takes care of all the guys for him because he knows that Sanford is in no condition to fight right now. So he's protecting him and stuff. They're really good friends. You can tell, like, even with no dialogue, these two never say a word, but you can tell that they're really good friends, and they have a really nice dynamic. So let's see here. So yeah, he picks up a gun to shoot, but, like, he's clearly not in any condition to shoot it. See, so Deimos, like, takes care of everything for him. Let's see. Eventually, he, you know, injects himself with some painkiller or adrenaline or something, and he's fine. There's more. There's the scene where, yeah, this scene right here where they go into the clothing store and they just try out, like, different outfits. Like, they spare this guy at the cash register's life. Like, I really like that. They don't just kill people when they don't need to. Very professional. They could just start reading a book. So they try out different outfits, and they're just like, he nervously glances at the door, like, should we be doing this? And they're like looking at each other, like, is that good on you? Nah, I think it's good on me. Like, yeah, there we go. And you know, he takes the mirror and he stares, and he gets like the lip of like, that looks pretty good. And Deimos throws the mirror on the ground, which is bad luck, which also explains why he dies later. So they're like pointing at each other, like, oh, you should wear it. No, you should wear it, and everything. And meanwhile, the guards are trying to kill them. It's like, oh, look at me. It's like, oh, yeah, you look good, man. It's like, oh, no. Like, just, it's really cute, okay? He's like, nah, that looks awful. No. And, like, they're about to get, the door's about to blow up. They're about to get in there and, like, kill everything and kill them. Look at them here. They're just hanging out. They're being bros. Putting on clothes. Never mind. So, yeah, the time for screen runs over. They just go off and then they go off into the helicopter. And there's a really funny scene in Madness Combat 7.5 that shows off the dynamic very well. If you can find it. Let's see here. So Deimos grabs this giant machine gun, and then again he just sits back and lights up a cigarette, and he's like, "Are you serious? Come on!" And then so right here, no, maybe it wasn't here. No, it was here. So they enter this room, and Sanford goes in guns blazing, and all of a sudden Deimos comes behind and starts shooting indiscriminately. While Sanford is directly in the line of fire, and Sanford just kind of, he drops to his belly to avoid the gunshots, you know, scoots away. Like, I don't think Deimos even understands, like, they're just really good teammates. Like, Sanford just knew, oh, I should duck now so I don't get shot. Like, they just have really good teamwork. I like it. Let's see. You know, they lift the bars for each other here. It's very cute. I find this cute. I shouldn't find it cute, but I do. And then, let's see, Madness Combat 9. This is turning out to be a much longer video than I expected. This is probably the funniest scene in the entire Madness Combat series. So they're killing people, right? And Deimos is off upstairs smoking a cigarette like he usually does. Wait, no, he was, never mind. So he kills these guys, and he drops down, and he's wearing one of the masks that, like, the bad guys wear. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna scare you. And then Sanford's just like, shut up. Like, come on, let's go. Like, that look of, like, just, like, "What are you doing?" on his face is hilarious. And he gets like slapped in the face with this. And it's like, "Okay, come on, let's go." You can tell the dynamic of their relationship just through those tiny little subtleties. Just like it's really good character work given the context of this series. And you know, after Hank kills this guy, Sanford comes out and he sees Deimos, and he's shocked, like he's taken aback, like oh no, and he immediately gets angry at the auditor and starts trying to kill him. Right? So yeah, I really like that. Sanford is a really cool character. So yeah, you can tell that like Sanford is like the no nonsense, get the job done guy, and Deimos is like the more laid back comic character, and you know they both have a really good friendship and all that. So I think it's a really good way of telling a story and really cool way of developing the characters. Yeah, it's just a really good series. I've talked probably for more than 48 minutes about a series that is 48 minutes, so I've probably spent more time talking about the series than it would take to watch it, and you've probably already seen most of it from the parts I've skipped through. But, I mean, like, I don't really know what else to say. It's just a really good animation for what it is. The story is fun and interesting. The characters are fun and interesting. The animation is superb. You know, the world building is great for what it is. It's just a goddamn good series, and people would agree. This is one of the most influential Flash animation series ever made, I think. Like, this series, like, defined Newgrounds. Newgrounds has a Madness Day, which is, like, I think it was, like, September, what day is it? September 22nd, for when Madness Combat was released. Like, there's, there's, like, Pico Day, and, like, I think there's, like, Tankman Day, but there's also Madness Day. Madness was part of what helped bring Newgrounds to the forefront of, like, the Flash and, like, gaming, websites, and, like, it's just this massive milestone of Flash animation that can show what Flash animation can do, and it's just so impressive, and, like, there are so many people out there who have probably been inspired by Madness Combat. So many YouTubers I know who I see on Madness Combat videos leaving comments, I'm like, oh my god, you watch Madness too? It defines so many childhood. It's just great. And, like, Cheshire, this fucking guy, he's an incredible artist. Like, just listen to some of his stuff. Like, god fucking damn. I think he, by himself, was what got me into electronic music. Like, I'm a pretty big fan of electronic music, and he was basically entirely responsible. And Madness did shape a lot of my more esoteric and strange tastes in fiction and media growing up. Like, the idea, when I was a kid, like, I was so fascinated by the idea that Hank was able to kill Jesus. Like, I didn't want to kill Jesus himself. That would be messed up. But, the fact that he could just shoot him and just kill a character, like, that is as godly and powerful as Jesus, that fascinated me. Like, I started thinking, like, if you could attack God when his guard was down, could you kill God? And stuff, and I just started thinking about this. And to this day, I have this sort of penchant for God-killing character. Like, I've never played a God of War game, but, like, Kratos, the idea of a character just killing the Greek pantheon, that's so cool to me, because, like, they're gods. You wouldn't think that you'd be able to kill them, but this guy just kills them. And, in my D&D type game, I have plenty of God-killing characters, or characters who are focusing on killing the gods. I think it's just such a cool thing. Oh, Karsa Orlong! Oh my god, I fucking love Karsa Orlong from the Malazan Book of the Fallen. This guy's a god killer for sure. He kills a few gods in the series. Malazan Book of the Fallen is a great story, by the way. This guy's really cool. But yeah, it shaped my tastes in like, literature. It shaped my tastes in, like, characters. It influenced my understanding of storytelling. It entertained the shit out of me as a kid. It's a fucking amazing series, and if you haven't seen it or heard of it, I really just recommend you take about an hour out of your day to watch it. You've already taken an hour out of your day to watch this, so yeah, it's incredible. It's just a great series, and yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. Again, this is another weird video where it's like I didn't make this because anyone asked me to. I just made it because I wanted to. If you guys want to see more of this kind of stuff, then just tell me. If any of you have actually watched until the end of this video, then tell me too, because that takes a lot of concentration, focus, and attention. So, yeah, thank you for listening. I'm going to end the video now.